Welcome back to the Brighter Side of Blue, our worldwide podcast coming to you from Columbo's Cafe and Tavern in Dogtown, St. Louis, home of the famous Seabo's Thin Crust Pizza and daily lunch specials. Mm-hmm. I'm Danny.
I'm Tommy.
I'm JJ.
Producer John.
Producer John's in the house. Tommy, get right to what we have because I have something that's been bothering me that I have to get off my chest.
So tonight's story, we're going to do the Mad Bomber of St. Louis, who is Richard Beck. And I knew nothing about Richard Beck until it was brought to our attention by our friend Frank Brostrom, and Steve Sorocko is going to be on. Steve is a legendary bomb and arson guy from the city of St. Louis, and as you'll hear, he was there for quite some time. And they go through how they came in touch with Richard Beck and how they got some confessions from him on some bombings, and all these happened in the 60s and 70s, and and there's a case out there that he is the original St. Louis bomber, and as you'll hear, possibly the most prolific bomber in St. Louis in U.S. history.
Wow. And you have a correction you have to make after.
Afterwards, we'll be back. We're going to do our regular opening, and if you want to go right to that story, just go to the description of the episode. And there'll be a line in there that could put you right on the timeline to go right to the
skip
story.
Our banter.
That's what I'm saying. But some people bitch about it.
They do?
Yeah, they ain't down with all the good
shenanigans
stuff we got to say.
The shenanigans, like
we got a lot of good shit coming up.
It's their loss.
Well, I have to get something off my chest.
What do you got?
Columbo's has a daily lunch special, and tonight's it's Cajun pasta. And Ricky Ray got it. You can get chicken or shrimp.
It looks
looks
fantastic.
good, except he got shrimp with it. And I'm an anti-shrimp guy because shrimp, in those little veins of a shrimp, that's poop.
Stupid.
You got to get them deveined.
Yeah,
No, you don't.
I'm not doing it.
That's just blood vein.
It's not. It's poop.
Whatever.
It's poop, and I don't. So I don't eat shrimp, and it's a lot.
You know what
of
I
work.
found disturbing about your eating habits is when we were in Florida, we were sitting there and we're on the counter and we're making lunch sandwiches. Everybody's just sitting around making sandwiches. and Danny goes in and makes his sandwich. He puts a piece of bologna on it, a piece of cheese, and 2 pieces of bread, and just starts eating it. That's disturbing.
First of all, the bologna.
Why
do we even buy bologna for that trip?
Because
bologna's good.
Bologna's
only
very
if it's
good.
fried.
And it's good for you.
It's really good for you.
Really good for you.
It's only
Really good
good
for
fried. Bologna's good for you?
Yeah. Yep. It's a hot dog pancake.
Bullshit, yeah.
It's a hot dog pancake.
Hot dogs are good for you.
Right.
It's a hot dog pancake.
Yep. That's what bologna is.
Bologna's boring. It's good fried, though. Fried bologna sandwich.
Oh,
is good.
yeah.
Yeah,
You
it
do
is.
the grilled cheese, but just put the bologna, put a piece of fried bologna in the middle of grilled cheese.
Oh.
And a couple
that's
shrimp.
good.
Shit.
Couple shrimps. Couple shrimps.
All right, this is really invigorating.
I want to.
I'm getting hungry.
I'm getting hungry. Last Saturday, I was leaving
This is good.
pickleball, and it was pouring down rain. And I had a good friend of mine in the passenger seat. My wife was in the back seat. And,
They okay?
They're okay. And a car started to hydroplane in the rain and came right in front of me and hit the guardrail and then bounced off. And I was hit by a truck. Long story short, I was pinned between 2 vehicles. They were absolutely totaled. And they were both on my back bumper and front bumper. And I didn't have a scratch on my car, by the grace of God. But we were pinned. And
This is Highway
44 eastbound, and we were just right before
the city limits.
Jameson. So,
Do you know the story?
yeah, I told him.
Oh,
I
it's a
didn't tell-
good one.
So,
Wow.
the highway had to close. There was an axle and tires, and
Jeez.
it was unbelievable. And I'm telling this story because I want Chief Vargas, Chief Lisa Vargas of Shrewsbury, to know about 2 of our officers, Officer Quinn Johnson and Sergeant Alan Lawson. They didn't know I was a famous, world-famous podcaster. They didn't know.
And a prior major.
Prior major, and 100 million people worldwide listen to me.
Right.
They didn't know that.
And, But you know what, though? They did notice that he already put a neck brace on. The whiplash was horrible.
But his car was unscathed.
Hey, you know what, Danny? That sets up my Zen is perfect for what you just
What I'm
talked about.
saying. So I just want to give a shout out because these officers, 2 shout outs to the officers. So they were in the rain, and it turned out it was actually in the city, but the city came at the same time Shrewsbury came, and they said, we're swamped. And Shrewsbury said, go ahead, we'll take care of it.
Wow.
And man, they were so compassionate. They were taking care of the lady. The lady had a 2-year-old baby and 2 dogs. A little young girl that worked at pizza joint, and they were out in the rain. And they were just totally professional. Impressed the hell out of me.
You know what's funny about that? Because when he was a young officer, he wouldn't have got out of the rain. He'd be like,
He
calling
rolled his win-
he would call to his window.
Are you hurt?
We would drove by.
Are you hurt?
Do you guys
hurt.
need anything?
That's a 95. There's nobody here.
Name and date of birth.
Right. You just hand them a pamphlet and a pen. Can you fill out this info,
Send
please?
it in.
You know, that's what he's most impressed, that they did it in the rain, dude.
And then, but you know, Terry's Towing. I want to shout out to Terry's Towing.
They did it in the rain, too?
They were in the rain, and they had 2 tow truck drivers, and they're out there sweeping the axle, pulling the axle off the highway, sweeping it, blowing it down, and got the highway open. Well, I was only there for like an hour and 15 minutes.
He got promoted way too soon because that shit happens every day.
It does?
I mean,
What?
not
When
every
did it
day,
start?
but it happens a lot. There were accidents, and the people get out there and they sweep
tow truck drivers?
Yeah, they do it all, man. Everybody, the fire department, they come out, they blow.
I know the fire. I've seen the fire department, but I've never seen the tow truck drivers have all the equipment to
Our
clear the
city
highway.
tow, Ed Young, who runs City Tow, he would do.
Chief Vargas, give a shout out to your Sergeant Lawson and
But
Quinn
what I'm going to
Johnson.
put up
That's
though is
nice.
I like to. So as Danny said, one of the people involved in that wreck had a infant
Yeah.
with him.
Whoa.
And there's all kinds of, obviously the mother of
Good call.
who's got this infant with her is freaking out because her
Right.
car's totaled and she's just rolling through town.
Yeah.
She's from out of town.
Oh,
She's
man.
got a totaled car.
Gosh,
she's got
man.
this infant. She's dealing with the police. She's
2
dealing with
dogs.
all this. Well, Danny sends me a picture. At one point, Denise, his wife, just went and got the baby.
Oh wow.
And then brought the baby in the back seat of the truck and then is
Feeding him a bottle.
the
Are
baby.
you serious?
Yeah.
I sent
And
the
you
picture
almost
of my-
forgot to tell that story.
I kind of got distracted.
I'm sorry.
You were abusing
That's
me
it.
a little bit.
That is a good story.
Yeah, so
That's-
the picture of Denise giving a baby a bottle, and I sent that picture to my kids, and all I said was, "Any questions?" My son Brian sent back, "I have a few."
holy
So
cow.
shout out to Shrewsbury.
So that was probably pretty scary, man.
Hour and 50. It was like slow mo. I couldn't believe what was happening, and nothing touched my car. Highway closed down.
Howard Luck.
That is Howard Luck.
Now I'm gonna get into a couple not so pleasant things.
Yeah, thank you.
First is our buddy Colin Ledbetter. He got horrible news. The leg he talked about. Remember in the episode he talked about a leg that he had no feeling in, so he couldn't. Unfortunately, in that leg he developed a blood clot, and they had to amputate above the knee of the injured leg. And when Colin was on this show, and we said it in our post recently, is the one thing that we all talked about was not the incident that he was involved in, which was an incredible story. But afterwards, we all talked about how great of a guy he was and how grounded he was. And for 29 years old, he was just a different kind of guy.
Yeah.
And, it was, when we heard that, like JJ called us and we had a meeting
were
here
here.
that day.
JJ.
And JJ got the news and we're just like, wow. And it just floored all of us. And we know that Colin's going to make the best of this. Absolutely. Just the kind of guy he is that, I guarantee you the next time we see him, he's smiling.
Well, they had a
100%.
picture. They had a picture of him in the hospital bed recently before he went into surgery, and he's smiling. It's like he's unreal. He is just unreal.
He's cut from a different cloth.
And his statement he said to his father put out there. You have it.
He something to the effect of,
Had this
I've
leg
had
for-
my leg for 4 years, and this is what God has planned for me.
He's unbelievable, and you know what? I can't wait to have him back on because
And he'll be back on.
Oh yeah,
He'll be doing something.
Our prayers are with them and our support. And
there's also a GoFundMe for him.
Yeah, we put it out. It's on our Facebook page. And by the time this comes out, you'll have to page through it a little bit to get to it. But
Yeah.
a lot of his buddies, get put together that GoFundMe page. But Steve his father hit us up on Facebook and said, just thank you for the support. And a lot of times that's what you need is just support, kind words, prayers. Sometimes it's not all about donations and digging into your pocket. Sometimes it's just about support.
Yeah, 100%.
Do the best you can. And we know Colin's going to come through from this. But Colin, if you're out there and you listen to this episode, we're with you. Stay strong, and we love you, brother.
Example for all of us, for everybody.
The next
man.
one, that's even a little bit worse, or a lot worse, is our buddy Mark O'Brien.
Mark O'Brien.
Just a Guns and Hoses legend. He used to announce at the Guns and Hoses. Was a policeman on 2 different occasions and went through the academy on 2 different occasions to be a policeman. A legendary pool player of billiards.
Oh, yeah.
He's a billiards, top billiards. He's like
legend.
He gave lessons. He actually owned a pool hall.
So they had Minnesota Fats as the only really pool legendary guy I know. Remember Minnesota Fats?
Yeah.
Sure.
So Mark would be called St. Louis Skinny.
That's true. Yeah.
So because he's
been up
but like I
against
said
it for
though,
10 years.
Mike Barrow, who's a friend of ours, went to school with Mark, and at Southwest, and he said he was low, but he could go. Yeah. And
he wasn't
unfortunately,
to be trifled with.
Right, it was not to be trifled with. But unfortunately, his battle with cancer is coming to an end, and just sad to hear. Because he's such a great guy, great family. We've had Charlotte on the show talking about the murder, the unsolved murders of the 2 brothers, and that's just another shout out. If you can go listen to that show, and you might have anything to give in that investigation would be helpful. But just a great family, and the father was a lieutenant, and just condolences to their family, because it looks like it's
Right.
We just got news today.
He's getting taken off of life support. So, this is just tomorrow morning. So this show comes out on
Monday.
So
Yeah. We get it. So that's,
Shout out to the O'Brien family and
prayers.
Godspeed.
Yep, 100%.
Great guy.
Wow. So we'll get on to
So that's the bad news. That's the sour stuff.
Yep. But take the good with the bad.
right.
Yeah. And so go ahead, JJ.
No, I was going to talk about something that.
Go, and I want you to.
Okay.
We're all looking forward.
I can't wait.
You guys may have heard this. This story's actually been. It's in the national news now, but there's the Nancy Guthrie story.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah, we've heard about it.
no, I just
Ad nauseum.
no. Well, anybody has their 84-year-old
Mom kidnapped.
grandma, and it's a devastating story. And we all been here. I was joking about it. We may have heard it. We all have heard it. It's been out everywhere. But this thing that they have going on now, which I think is amazing. And I'm going to give my prediction too.
Oh.
If this doesn't happen, I mean, I'm
Really looking forward to that.
But they got this genetic geology thing that they're doing. Do you know what they're doing? They're going to, because what they're doing now, they're at their wits' end. They got some DNA, but it hasn't matched anything. The
Right.
CODIS,
Glove?
The CODIS.
the CODIS hasn't hit us. It hit the FBI, the CODIS, whatever it is. So now they're doing this genetic genealogy thing, which is like, what's the
21 and
23andMe.
23andMe.
There's other, a bunch of them, but now they're going to go and test it and send it out to these different companies that do that genealogy thing, and if they just get a relative that matches, then they can go to see they can go to the family and like, here, you're a match for the glove or the blood that this case. Right. And I guarantee you, if they find that person, they're going to be like, whoever they talk to is like, hey, your DNA matches. They're going to be like, oh, that's Johnny.
Yeah, 100%. No,
I was thinking that when you were saying that too. Every family knows. Every family knows
that person.
It was him.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
But my prediction, they're not. It's not, and it's going to take a while to get to that. They said it's going to be, I don't know how long, a couple of weeks or whatever. But if it's negative for that, it has to be, and they're only 77 miles from Mexico, and I'm just guessing. I don't get in trouble for this, but it's going to be an illegal that's here. They decided to try to rob this lady because they just probably roaming nice neighborhoods, picked her out, tried to rob her, and then I think through a struggle or something went bad. And I hate to say this, but I personally don't think I hope to God she's alive still. But if she isn't, I just don't think she is. I mean, we hope that she survives, but it's been 19 days.
Yeah, I mean,
so
the
far.
odds are definitely
right
against her
but
now.
I think it's from this is. I'll get in trouble for saying this. I think it's going to be an illegal. They went back to Mexico. They realized there's nothing. They're not trying to get money from her anymore or nothing. They're just. Yeah. I think it
was something that went wrong.
She might have died during the struggle or whatever, and they didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking getting back in Mexico is probably not the problem. It's just coming into the U.S. from Mexico. I'm guessing they went back there, disposed of her body or whatever, and that's how it's going to end up. And they may never know, but
I don't think they're solving it.
I don't think they're
I don't
solving
think
it.
they're solving it.
It's too long.
That's my theory.
When you're let's just say it is let's just say your theory is correct, and this guy just went back.
Yeah. There's nothing they can do.
Done.
They'll never.
Good luck.
And they're not going to be on the
Hey,
geology. They're not going to be on 21andMe or whatever.
Even if they are, dude's deep in Mexico.
Right.
What are you going to do to him?
We ain't gonna
What a
have
bizarre story. I feel so sick.
But we
to my
won't have.
stomach.
We won't have an
Yeah.
illegal. We won't have an illegal
in CODIS.
in CODIS or and even that geology thing.
Right.
Those geology things.
Well,
Maybe.
well, it's pretty cheerful, JJ. Thanks for that.
It's been a downer.
I thought we were
really
gonna-
went-
I thought we were going to get a little shit.
And
No.
maybe is there
Okay.
any like pandemics get ready to start? You guys want to talk
Can you
about?
tell us about the measles
I can
pandemic?
bring up another one.
Now that we got the whole
let's talk about the Olympics. And,
Oh, yeah.
and there was some good stuff. The U.S. women just won the gold,
Gold.
which is an unbelievable game.
Joy done.
But I have my favorite Olympic star.
Moment.
Time for a word from our sponsors, JJ. If you need some serious security, who do you go to?
Personally, I would go when you're looking for real protection, not just a badge on a wall. Make the call to the Campbell Security Group, based right there in St. Louis. They're veteran-owned and powered by former law enforcement and military professionals, from executive protection to private air security. They got your back. Get a peace of mind when it matters most. Visit CampbellSecurityGroup.com or call 314-499-1121. Campbell Security Group, because safeguarding your world requires more than watchful eyes. It demands proven action.
Tommy, they have a lot of vehicles at Campbell Security Group. If they need repair, where are they heading to?
I'll tell you what, when your car needs real attention, brakes, diagnostic, tires, or full service, you want a shop you can trust. That's Fairway Automotive. 5 locations across the St. Louis area, all family run, all built on honest work and quality repair. Their certified techs don't guess. They diagnose, fix it right, and keep you safely on the road. Fairway backs every job with integrity and a hometown service that's harder to find these days. Visit fairwayautomotive.com to book your next appointment. Fairway Automotive, where it's not just done the right way, it's done the fair way.
And she's not from the United States.
Who is it?
She's from Netherlands.
Oh, the speed skater.
Judah Learman.
Yeah.
Leerdam.
Yeah.
And she's married to Jake Paul.
Yeah. Not married
But-
yet,
oh, yeah.
but yeah.
She's engaged.
Yeah.
But the thing about her, she's like the perfect woman.
Yeah, she is.
But
Dude.
but I don't think her name was. I think her name is his name was Judah Lear. I think she got. Whenever I said, "Hey, this is Judah Lear," they went, "Damn!" So they just added the "damn" to her name, Lear Damn.
So you're a jokester now. You're a jokester. You, Bob Hope just came on the show. Thanks
She's
for
Lear
that,
Damn.
Bobby.
She's a smoke. She is one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen.
Yeah, you know what?
She's not perfect though, because you have to fight Jake Paul.
Yeah, shit. She might be able to kick his. You see her workouts? She's she's
Unbelievable.
unreal, dude.
Well, you asked
can cut all this out,
where is this podcast going? This is the root of the podcast.
Oh, this is
us
great.
at a tavern. This is us talking.
I'm going to tell you something right now.
This is how it all started.
I'm going to give you a preview in the next
Moronic
week's show.
stuff like this.
I'm going to give you a quick preview in the next week's
I
show.
love Judah.
We just interviewed Maggie. Maggie Hagan is going to be our new gal. She's joining us. We're going to start with her doing the DTF St. Louis, which is coming out on March the 1st. It's coming out this Sunday, after the show comes out. So it'll be out that Sunday. This particular show that we have Maggie on, we introduced Maggie, and she's going to be good.
She's good.
She is good. And then she has did her research on DTF St. Louis, and then brought to us several stories that have murder involved that are surrounding the DTF St. Louis, the theme of the show.
Exactly.
And but Danny in that episode,
Oh, geez, here we go.
I'm not gonna tell you now, but it was probably the hardest we ever laughed, right, JJ?
Yes,
It's a tremendous snafu.
I really enjoyed it.
No, I thought we were going to cut that out.
Oh no, that will never.
Yeah, I would quit. All the stuff
We-
you wouldn't cut out for me, and they're going to make a section for you.
Right.
Exception for you.
I
So,
might lead the show with it. It just might lead the show.
You have my back.
I got your back on this one. But
This
no,
will be-
and we're looking forward to that series though too.
Oh, DTF.
Doesn't start till, but it's got murder,
Oh, it's
St. Louis,
Swinging.
swingers,
Swinging.
DTF, down to flat. Come on, I mean, we're in.
It's hook, line, and sinker.
Come on, and we're gonna break it down.
We're
baby.
going to dissect it.
break it down.
Maggie's going to help us dissect it from a millennial
Yeah,
perspective.
she's 30. you have a different perspective than our old asses. Right?
Yeah, us tired,
female.
Yeah, and she brings it. So I'm looking forward to that.
She was involved in the. We didn't even get into that in her.
Hey, we don't need to open for her now.
That's true.
I don't. The Mad Bomber's coming up. I mean, hey, man, come on now.
We're trying to get cheerful.
But the other thing she brought was the different. She's single. She's been in the. We're a bunch of old heads. We don't know nothing about that, but we're really looking forward to that, and we had a lot of fun. That was a fun show. So definitely tune in next week if you're waiting for the Mad Bomber. Right. That was the hardest we've laughed in a long time.
Yep.
Us old guys, DTF means don't trust a fart.
Wait a minute, that's not what it meant.
I don't know.
I thought it was weird.
That's pretty good. Hey, hit that like, subscribe, and share. We didn't get to 93 million viewers by not. We need your help. Tommy tracks it.
Yep.
It helps keep the Grassroots podcast going. And I'm going to go right into, we have Major Mueller in the crowd, Marine. And I actually thought for my This Day in History, I wish either Major Mueller or Major Hager would actually present it, because on this day, February 23rd,
What happened?
it's now we don't have in our studio the live audience. There are 97 out there right now. They can't see the monitor, but everybody can picture in their head the famous flag sticking in the ground on Iwo Jima at the top of Mount Suribachi.
Can I say something
Yeah,
on that note?
yeah.
I might be stealing your thunder.
Go ahead.
The guys that put it up, the mother recognized him from his butt.
Yeah, he just took some thunder. Do you mind if I
Go ahead.
Do you mind if I take your Zen too?
Yes, you can. Actually, yes. But go ahead.
So that's part of my deal.
I know it would be.
So is there anything else you want to interrupt?
No, I'm good. I'm sorry.
All right. So
You could cut that out, Tom.
No, you don't have to. Now I don't have to say it. What's interesting is, I don't know if Major Mueller knows this, but there was 2 flags stuck in the ground that day. So one was stuck in at 10:30 a.m., a 40-man patrol. First of all, a little history.
Love it.
Why did we even want to go to this island? There was 2 airfields. This is World War II. There was 2 airfields on this island that we wanted to get a hold of, and we did get a hold of them, because we're badass Marines and we're America. So at 10:30 a.m., a 40-man patrol led by Harold Schreier, they reached the summit, and they put a flag down, but it was only a 54 by 28 flag. And so along comes Lieutenant Colonel Chandler Johnson, and he says, take that one out and put a larger one, a big-ass one in, a 96 by 56
Colonel
one.
Johnson going big.
Because
Let's go big,
at 1
baby.
p.m.,
I'm down.
and so the picture that we're all know in our head is of the big one. It's the second flag stuck in the ground. Both of them are in the National Archives now, both the flags. But so the big one's in there, and it's at 1 o'clock. So the iconic photo is this and that. So I want to tell you about one of the guys. Now, I won't even tell you about the one that the mom recognized by the butt. But
Booty identification.
Moms know their kids, man.
the old man of the group, there were 6 guys that put the flag in. And 4 of the 6 were misidentified, JJ. And so
That's where that
4 of the 6. And the 6th one wasn't properly identified until 2019.
Ooh, took a minute.
2019.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Took a minute.
So, but let me tell you about the old man of the group, Sergeant Michael Strank. He's a Czechoslovakian immigrant, and he was the seasoned leader of the group. Everybody idolized him. He was whatever. He was the first of the flag raisers to die. Hours after the flag was put, he was in the sand drawing a strategy with his guys. His guys were around him. This is a horrible story.
Holy wow.
He was drawing a map in the sand with his squad around him, and friendly fire, a mortar from one of our ships, while he's drawing, hits him and kills him. 25-year-old. Boom. Corporal Harlan Block. He was killed just hours after Strank. So after putting the flag in the ground on the island, he was killed within hours. He was the guy at the very base of the flag, by the way.
It wasn't friendly fire on that one, though.
No, that wasn't friendly fire. So towards the end of the battle, Franklin Sausley, he was a private first class. He was the baby of the unit, 19 years old. He can't buy a beer in America right now, but he could die for us winning this island, which is unbelievable. He died on March 21st. He was shot by a sniper.
Damn.
And when he was shot and he was laying on the ground mortally wounded, a fellow Marine asked him, "Hey, how are you?" Because he couldn't see the wound or whatever. And he goes, "I just don't feel anything." And then he died. 19-year-old. So this is unbelievable. And this day is the one. So I'm going to tell you about one of the survivors. This is an unbelievable story. So one of the guys was misidentified. It was Harlan Block. Ira Hayes is one of the guys that stuck the flag. I don't know if Mikey knows this or not. Ira Hayes was one of the ones that stuck it in, and he survived. Did you know this? He walked because in 1947, I don't know if he didn't have a car or whatever. He walked 1,300 miles down to the home of Marlon Block's family to say, "It was your son."
Really?
In 1947.
Wow.
It's one of the survivors. And just so you know, Ira Hayes didn't do very well after this. After the war was over, he had PTSD and died an alcoholic, whatever. But one of the survivors became a Postal Day will appreciate that. Became a mailman and did fine, but never talked about it. Neighbors and anybody that knew him, he'd belly up to a bar. They didn't know he was one of the ones that stuck the flag in the ground. He never ever spoke of it.
Wow.
This day in history, Marines, our Marine Corps.
Good story.
Winning islands.
Warriors.
Can I tell
Warriors.
a story about my uncle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
Hey,
uncle's-
for our Marines.
My Uncle Sam.
All our military people.
My Uncle Sam was
Today's
in the Battle
Marine.
of the Bulge. And he named his first son, Andy, after his best friend that died in his arm. So my mom, years later, after I was born, I was around. She went out to the mail and met the mailman. He was delivering. She saw him, so she goes out to get the mail from him. And he had a tattoo on his arm, on his forearm. And he says, my mom says, "My brother has that same tattoo." He goes, "Then I know your brother."
Are you
Wow.
kidding
Yeah,
me?
yeah.
Where was that guy mailman at? Was he a mailman in St. Louis?
Oh, I
The
don't
guy
know.
you talked about.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, dig deeper.
I'm sorry. I owe you an
know.
apology. Yeah, I should know.
Jesus Christ.
But anyway, that's my story.
This thing could go deeper.
Yeah.
Right.
That could have been the person that JJ's mom sought out the mailbox.
And that would be a piece of history that we discovered on this podcast, just like we discovered the original Hoosier in St. Louis,
Yes.
the Filoni family.
Yep.
No,
Yeah, great story. Oh, wow. Anyway, Producer John, are you sitting on a musings at the microphone
Come
with
on
Producer
now.
John?
I am.
Let's hear it.
What do you got?
I have a question for you boys.
Okay.
I love
What
questions.
iconic American product from 1953 to 1981 was produced in North St. Louis?
Switzer's Licorice.
The big wheel.
Bullets.
Vest Soda. Vest Soda. JJ.
The Corvette.
Really?
What?
Oh, yeah, at Natural Bridge in
Natural Bridge in Union.
Oh,
in
wow.
Union.
Yeah, so GMC Trucks had a plant here, and then when they developed the Corvette, the first 300 Corvettes were produced in Michigan. And Corvettes were, they were a different breed because they were made of fiberglass, the body. So the body would show up in pieces, like 12 pieces. And, so after the first 300, those were prototypes. The rest of them for those next 28 years were produced here in St. Louis up at Natural Bridge in Union. So each one was kind of unique because the workers up there had to hand
Mold.
put together these bodies and then put them on the chassis. So they said back then every Corvette was basically unique to a certain degree. They looked pretty much alike, but there was little details. And they said that the workers up there, they took so much pride in their work. They would, like, underneath the carpet and stuff, they would put their they would autograph
Initials.
them and initials and stuff and write different things. They would put little things like in cavities in the body of the car, just
Let's make it a little bit different.
make it a little bit different. And so almost 700,000 Corvettes were produced in St. Louis between 53 and 81.
Wow.
So this is where they came from, including in 1963 was the split. They had the split rear window on the Corvette, and it was just like 1 year, and it's like a collector's item now. But they said like during that time in 1963, car dealers in St. Louis were sneaking in like the back door of the factory because they wanted to get a look at this new car, Stingray. That's like the first year of the Stingray, I think. So anyway, it's kind of a little known thing, and we always kind of heard it as policemen when you drive.
Now, where were these built? Just
Natural Bridge and Union. That's huge.
It's just dust
the one
here,
by the
so-
highway?
Yes.
Okay, that one. Okay,
Yeah.
that's I would have said 70 in Union.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where
you can.
Okay.
You're okay.
We're at
You're
Union
all right.
7.
You're
Doesn't
right.
make you a
You'd be
bad
right,
guy.
too.
Yeah, doesn't make you a
It's right
bad
in the
guy.
middle.
in part, they tore
Not
down
in the middle.
They tore down
Thing
most
was right
of
off
the
the
plant,
side of the fucking highway.
Zip it.
Oh, I don't think so.
but it's still that Union 70 Center up there is part of the old Corvette factory. But in '81 they moved it down to Bowling Green, Kentucky, and they don't make it the same way down there as they did here in St. Louis.
Damn right they don't.
So they make a new Corvette every year still? They still making? I mean, you don't see Corvettes very often anymore.
Yeah, I think they stopped making them for a while, but they're making them again.
They're making them again, JJ.
They were very
Very
popular.
good
for-
little
That was a good
information
one.
right under our noses.
Right.
You're bringing history to us right under our noses here in St. Louis.
And that monstrosity that apparently
building.
that he's talking about that was a monstrosity
Oh,
of a building. Is it
unbelievable.
still there, JJ?
I don't think so.
They ripped that thing down.
Is it still there?
Looked like a U.
Yeah, it's still there. I think
Like a
It's-
big
it's-
U.
Yeah.
I think it's just like warehouses and stuff or whatever.
I'm
it's
guessing.
abandoned.
I'm guessing it's abandoned
No,
myself.
it's abandoned.
Wow, that's good. Well, it's
Right by
been-
the boys' home, right?
Is it? Oh, I don't know. Is that boys? I don't know if that boys' home's still there. Is it?
Or Job Corps. I'm sorry, Jobs Corps.
Oh, yeah, man. That's
Jobs
that.
Corps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
and
may still be there.
That new Schnucks is across the street, isn't it? At Union and
Schnucks is it?
That's right there.
yeah, yeah.
not
Very
right
good.
there. It's down
No,
the
no,
street.
no. You're right. He's way off. He's yeah. Schnooks is there on the corner. Natural
70.
Bridge.
We're at
And
70, dude.
Right, he's in between.
You guys are over at Natural Bridge. It's,
and Union.
you know,
I'm driving
quarter
here.
of
But
a
I'm
mile.
gonna go by there tomorrow. Make sure. I'm gonna take
Yeah.
pictures.
Take a picture.
been
Take
kind
some
of
pictures.
it's been kind of a dark show.
Okay.
Are you bringing a
Yes,
Zen?
but before you start the music, I want to make an announcement. None of my friends that give me Zens have been coming through lately. I haven't gotten any text.
Postal Dave, Greg Colombo?
None of them. But so
CC?
I'm making a change.
Okay.
For a little, just temporarily. I am going to do. They're all going to be law enforcement themed
Oh,
for
beautiful.
police officers or whatever.
That's pretty unique for a law enforcement podcast.
That's what I'm
I don't
saying.
know
That's
how you
why I
thought
went-
about
There you
some
go.
shit like that.
Let's see if you have enough
That's
to last.
Crazy. That's
I
pretty
do.
good.
I think
JJ.
I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unique.
Howard got
Everybody
suspended.
relax.
It's all going to be like Howard got suspended.
So what?
Your integrity is what you do when no cameras are watching. This is for police officers. Your integrity is what you do when no cameras are watching.
I like it.
But what if you're like 13 years old?
This
and
is
you're
for
a
law
boy?
enforcement officers.
Oh.
This is
Oh.
meant to be towards police officers.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
That is
I
true.
like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's
Now
my thing.
that-
It's law enforcement.
Yeah.
Now I'll
that's
bring
very-
up the next subject is the dancing policeman at Mardi Gras. Did you
Oh.
see this?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Did you see it?
in St.
In
Louis?
St. Louis. He was down there and he was partying with the crowd. And he was dancing and whatnot. And I see it on social media. As everybody knows, I'm down with social media. But I went to the comments just to see what the comments were. All positive.
Really?
Every last one of them. There wasn't a political statement. There wasn't nothing about Trump, nothing about Obama. There wasn't nothing about no political
Just all
parties.
fun-loving.
It was all fun. But that, like, apparently, and I didn't get this from JJ, and I was talking to somebody, and they're all old head. They were all crusty about it. I was like, come on, man. It was fun. The guy was having fun. That's good for and the
Yeah.
comments are there. But then he went on to tell me that the guy took it a little too far and got up on stage and stuff. And,
Okay.
so
That took it too far.
Hey,
It
he had a great time. He enjoyed his Mardi Gras.
But it was. I get it. It's not traditional.
To me,
a lot of us old heads don't like that shit.
I don't know the kid at all. He might be he's probably a great kid.
You don't like it?
I don't mind a little bit of it, like when he's in the parade and doing that stuff, but I think he went a little too far. That's just me. But
That's fine.
Hey, it is what
Have
it is.
fun.
It's the younger generation.
It's fine.
That's
fine.
what's
I
going
think us old heads have a tough time.
Getting around that stuff.
Like the beards.
We need to be
like
better.
beards.
Oh, those drive me crazy. The beards and the mustache.
Some of the hairstyles
and
are
the
crazy,
hair,
too.
And tattoos. I don't know. We're not going there. We're not going there.
Old heads.
We're not going there. Tommy, what about our communities?
The communities that support law enforcement are safer places to live, and then enjoy this thing. And we'll be right back there at the end of the show. We're just going to clear something up about Richard Beck, but
Enjoy
there's
the
no
show.
sense in telling you now. Enjoy this. Steve Sorocko, Frank Brostrom, the Mad Bomber of St. Louis. It'll be a great show. Hope you enjoy it.
Peace.
That was a word from our sponsors. Looking for a place to unwind, celebrate, or just pull up a seat with a good company and a fine cigar? Head to Riverman Cigar Company, located at 8984 Watson Road. They're not just a cigar shop. They're a premium lounge where craftsmanship meets chill. From Padron to AJ Fernandez, the humidor is stocked. The sonic humidifier with reverse osmosis keeps every stick tasting top tier. Whether you're new to cigars or a seasoned aficionado, they've got events, education, and a cozy spot to kick back. Call 314-843-3355 or check them out online, rivermancigar.com, where quality matters and the vibe's right.
Now, Tom, where does Dan from Riverman Cigar go when he's selling all those cigars at a high price?
Making all the money.
Yeah, making all the money. Where does he go after that?
He should head on out to Avail Professional Services. It's based in St. Louis, but it has reach across Missouri and Illinois. They are experts in tax planning, payroll, bookkeeping, HR support, and they don't stop until you're under control. Whether you're a solo hustler or a growing firm, Avail brings a high-touch service with real-world results. Visit availproserve.com for your free consultation. Avail Professional Services. When every financial detail matters, go see Dr. Dussold, otherwise known as Marty Bird. Huge supporter of law enforcement. Go see him. Marty.
The Birdman.
Yep.
All right, welcome to our featured interview. And today we have with us Steve Sorocko, legendary bomb and arson guy for the city of St. Louis, retired. And we have Frank Brostrom, FBI bomb technician, lead bomb technician. At the same time, Steve was doing his thing with the bomb and arson here in St. Louis. And we are going to talk a little mob history here, and we're going to focus on Richard Beck today. Is a man that Steve and Frank both encountered in their careers here. But if you're into St. Louis mob history, you will hear some names that are familiar with you. And we're going to start with Richard Beck, but we will do some more shows with Steve, at least he says. But Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Could you, and we've heard Frank, and we'll get to Frank here in a minute, but could you just walk us through your police career, when you started and how you got to bomb and arson?
I started on the police department in 1966 in the 3rd District. Eventually went to headquarters to a CID unit for a short period of time, and went to bombing and arson. I was detached there in 79 and transferred in 1980, I think. And I stayed there for the remainder of my career until 2007 when I retired.
How many years was that?
41.
But you got promoted while you were as a detective there, the sergeant?
I went in a bomb squad as a detective, and I was promoted while I was there. Left for about 6 months and went to the 5th District, and then came back to bombing and arson.
Very good. So you had the history and the schooling, I guess. So where did you go and do your schooling, the bombing school?
The bomb school is in Huntsville, Alabama, at Marshall Missile Base, and it's the only place to go. That's where all bomb technicians are trained.
And you learn you learn most of it just by doing it.
Times have changed.
Right.
When we started, it was a little bit on the simple side, and technically would be unacceptable today. But within a few years, By the late 80s, things had changed quite a bit. Technology had improved.
But when you came on, so when you went there in 1979, that was like in the middle, that bombings were extremely popular things to do in all cities, but in St. Louis in particular, correct?
Yes.
So, and your caseload at that time, you were one of how many detectives?
The most we ever had was 9. And I think probably the least was 6.
And when you retired?
How many did we have? There was, I think there were still six
Was there?
guys working for me when I retired.
Do you know how many there is now?
I have no idea.
Well, the city and the county is merged together now.
Yes.
Okay.
And I know at least 4 or 5 that we have.
Well, there's rules that you have to have. If you have a team that goes in, you got to have a team
Right.
out. You've got to have double equipment. You have to have 2 of almost everything, which is really quite expensive to operate a squad like that.
I got a serious question. You're talking to Tom now because he threw a person. You know the story. He threw a person to a dumpster, and then the bomb unit. I believe you came out and had to deal with it.
You remember that? So this would have been when the Gulf War kicked off.
Well,
So let's just tell the story. If we're going to tell the story, let's tell
Go
the
ahead.
story. So I got to, we might as well. So Frank, you might enjoy this story. I don't think you've heard this one, Frank.
Okay.
I got a call back in, I guess it's not, whenever the Gulf War was, 90, whatever, is that about
Shit,
right?
yeah.
91. So I get a call one morning, and very early in the morning, and then it's for a recovered purse. So I go to the call. I get to the call, and the lady points out that this purse had been thrown away in the dumpster. And this purse couldn't have been more raggedy. It looked like it was about 30 years old. Could not have been more raggedy, and just an old piece of junk. I open it up, and there's one card in there. It's like a Blockbuster card. I'll never forget. I'll never forget the address. It was 2835 McNair. So I get there, and the gal's like, "Oh, could have been taken in a robbery." And I'm thinking, no, this is not taken in no robbery. What are we doing here? So I get the purse, and I act like, I'll take care of it. I take that purse, and I went by 2835 McNair, which is the only address I had from a Blockbuster card. There's nobody there. I put it in the back seat. I'm not writing a report on this thing. And then, but when I get back to the station, I had forgotten that I had the thing in the back seat. So it's time for relief now, and I wrap it up in the newspaper. and I throw the newspaper away, and the purse is in it. So that night, like I said, the Gulf War kicks off, and the station gets a bomb threat. They call the front desk of the station, and they have a bomb threat. So Lieutenant Fassler is walking around, just doing a cursory search of the place, just in case. And he sees the newspaper something wrapped up in the newspaper. And they call out the troops. And the troops were there do you remember this?
yes.
Did you ever know that was me?
Well, I think that I did find out, and we never held anything against anyone. Anything that happened like that, we tried to tell everybody, including the commanders, hey, it couldn't be any better. Nobody got hurt.
Right.
Everything's okay.
But you guys were out there for a couple hours, if I'm not mistaken.
Well,
And if I'm not mistaken,
we were
the
there
entire,
for quite a long time.
right, then the entire Area 1 got shut down and the houses around it.
Yeah.
They were kicking people in the houses around it. If you lived around Area 1 back in the day, sorry about that. Frank, obviously you were a bomb technician. You've been on the show before. And you said Steve was one of your mentors as a young FBI agent. Tell us a little bit about when you went to bomb school and how you met Steve.
Well, I tell you what, I really give a lot of credit to Steve. If I was successful at all in the FBI, it was because I attached myself to the hip to Steve, and we became best friends, over the years. But yeah, I was working a lot of bank robberies and, kidnappings and stuff. So I didn't run into Steve from 1990 till, mid 90s. And then I went to the Oklahoma City bombing and worked that as an investigator and got to know the bomb techs, and they sponsored me to go to bomb school. So I go to Redstone Arsenal, down in Huntsville. And I come back, and I'm the first FBI bomb tech in St. Louis in like 15, 20 years, right? So what's the first thing I do? My job, I got to get to know the bomb squads. I got to call the bomb squad commander. So I dial Steve up, right away. I describe it like, dating a girl, though. Steve didn't know me from Adam. FBI agent, bomb tech, what? They don't do that stuff, right? So it's kind of like, dating a girl, trying to get that first date. I'm calling him, and he's busy, and he calls me back, and I call him again. And I say, hey, let's go out to lunch. Well, I'm kind of busy, And then we go out to lunch, and, he kind of gets to like me a little bit. I'm like, hey, I got like a $7,000 pan disruptor, water cannon, So now I get to I get to second base with Steve. Oh, okay, come on over. He gets to like me a little bit better, And then, hey, we got a couple of hazmat suits, And, so we established it, And then, and
You bought them off.
Like it goes, just like in dating, if you go too far, and then, they get pregnant, and then you got to, you got to support them the rest of it.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. Wait, what were we talking about?
Right.
So anyway,
Right. Back to the subject.
So, yeah. But anyway, so that's how I got to know him. But I tell you what, Steve is very thorough. Steve is the most intelligent guy I've ever met, and he wanted to make sure that this new FBI guy that's a bomb tech, knows what he's doing. He's not going to get anybody hurt or get himself hurt. And so, Steve took me under his wing, and then St. Charles County, St. Louis County, but I was closest to Steve, and we got to know each other, and that was 1996, and we've known each other ever since. Best friends.
All right, now let's get to Richard Lee Bodeker, or not Richard. We'll talk about him later. There's this slip of already some names that might come up.
You cut it out.
Some names that'll come down in the future of the show. But we're going to talk about Richard Beck. Now, did you know of Richard Beck prior to Frank coming to you with the information that he had?
Yes.
What was Richard Beck's background in St. Louis, and what was his MO? What was he involved in?
He was involved in drugs, burglaries, stolen cars. There was bulletins and photographs that were available to almost everyone in the city. If he was out and active in a certain area, that area would get notified that here's the kind of car he's driving and here's what he looks like. Keep an eye on it.
Did you know of him as a, and we're going to get into some of the bombings he did, that he admitted to. Were you aware of him as a bomber prior to going and interviewing him when Frank gets you involved?
That's hard to answer. It's probably not. I suspected that he was from some documents that I'd read, but wasn't able to put it together right. Mm-hmm. Until we had a combined effort.
And Frank, so now we'll get to how do we get to Richard Beck? How do you get to Richard Beck? How do you bring it to Steve's attention?
So an old partner of mine, Greg Lacombe, was on the drug and organized crime squad. And he was working, we ran into Richard Beck on the violent crime squad for bank robberies. And then Greg Lacombe worked the drugs and organized crime. And everybody knew of Richard Beck's reputation. Greg put together an undercover operation, sort of a short-term type thing, and was able to put, Richard Beck had 7 or 9 felony convictions from the 1960s through. So they got him with a shotgun through an informant, and he was arrested. So Greg and I are buddies. We're talking about it, and I happened to read something in the file. It was an informant document that said something about unsolved bombings, that Richard Beck had murdered people and allegedly murdered people and did some bombings. So I'm like, well, why wasn't he ever convicted of bombing? So I got really interested in it. And, later on, I just want to cover this later on, Steve and I would do some research, and we found several news articles in the Post-Dispatch from the 70s that said, local fraudster, local robbery suspect suspected of being a bomber was indicted. Richard Beck, organized crime and suspected bomber is captured, but he never had any convictions for it. And then we found this letter that was addressed to George Peach, the old circuit attorney, that was sent by the superintendent of police, Kleinek.
Kleineke?
Is that how you pronounce it?
Kleinek.
Kleineke? Yeah, okay. But basically, he wrote a letter to George Peach, the circuit attorney at the time, who was going to sentence Beck over a minor, not as serious a crime. And he writes this letter, and it says, I'm going to read it to you. There is undoubtedly no one in the St. Louis metropolitan area who has been a more dangerous man than Richard Beck for the last 20 years. He has been convicted of 5 state crimes involving burglary and stealing, and 2 federal crimes involving interstate transportation of stolen money orders and bank extortion. And that's a whole nother thing. He went to Memphis and did some bank extortions. And he used some bombs in some of those bank extortions. He has been the mastermind behind a large number of commercial burglaries in the St. Louis County area. Intelligence information indicates that he may be responsible for 7 murders, usually by shooting or bombings.
Shit.
And we're like, what are you talking? All the stuff we're hearing about bombings, and there's no arrests or convictions. So
So what does Lacombe get him? What does Greg get him on? What does he get arrested for? What kind of case does Greg get him on?
On the felon in possession, he takes it to Tom Meehan, and he eventually gets convicted of being a felon in possession. But because of his criminal history, which is extensive, he got 24 years in federal prison.
Now, how old was he at this time? Around about what?
Well, back then he would have been in his 50s. In his 50s, I don't know exactly, 50. I don't know why I'm thinking 56, 55. But he gets 24 years in the federal penitentiary. So everyone's thinking, oh, he's going to go off and die in prison. Well, that's going to be the surprise at the end that we're going to talk about. And so he's kind of a chatty guy and writes letters to a lot of different people, to the judges, to the FBI guys, things like that. And I said, Greg, you got to get me introduced to this guy. I want to talk to him.
Hold on one second. When you say he was chatty and writing letters, was he what kind
Richard
of letters
Beck.
were they?
From prison.
He would write to the judge saying, Judge, I was wrong for this, wrong for that. He wrote, who's the writer in St. Louis?
Bill McClellan?
The guy that McCullough. He wrote him, and he wrote several articles about Richard Beck over the years. Look this up, the trials of Richard Beck, and things like that. So we knew that he liked to talk, and since we felt he was going to die in prison, all I wanted was I wanted to learn about him and then try to get an interview with him.
So was he already sentenced when you tried to go interview him in prison?
Yeah, he was off to federal prison somewhere in West Virginia, I think originally, or
Beckley.
Pennsylvania or something. What's
Beckley?
Beckley?
Oh, that was later. When we went to talk to him, that was in Beckley. But yeah, I forgot where the first place. He was in Kentucky somewhere, Louisville or something like that. Yeah, so, and everybody kind of just said, hey, look, he's going to federal prison for life. Leave that alone. But as a bomb technician, I was fascinated by all these news articles and what everybody knew about him. And I wanted to find out what bombings he did. So that's when I went to Steve and said, hey, Steve, look what I got. And Steve introduced me.
Hold on 1 second. What is that?
It's Sorocko's phone.
Kill it.
Oh,
I got it on vibrate.
It's time for him to go to bed.
Swipe it. It's off. It's on vibrate.
No, it wasn't on fire.
That's the alarm, not the phone call.
I thought it was a merry-go-round up here somewhere.
I was like, is this Christmas? All right, I don't even know. Where were you at, Frank?
Talk to him.
So I went to Steve and said, hey, Steve, look what I found. And Steve knew Richard Beck, of course. And here's the key of the whole thing. Steve got me access to St. Louis PD Intel section, a little slow but sure, and we spent a ton of time. And it's just a travesty that the St. Louis PD had to get rid of all their intel because they had stuff going back to the 30s and 40s. It was believe it should have been archived in a museum. But the laws changed and they had to get rid of it. But we learned so much about Richard Beck in there, so much that when we threw stuff out, we gained his trust and his confidence in us.
So
He was impressed that we studied him.
Steve,
We studied
tell us
him for a year, right, Steve?
Pardon
About
me?
a year. We studied him for about a year before we talked to him.
Yeah, there was, the files that I read was probably 6-7 hours a day for 2 or 3 weeks. Because if his name is mentioned in a file, you got to go back to that file, that person, and find out why he's in that file and then why he's in the next file.
Wow.
Explain to the listeners that you're talking about the files back in the day and how our intelligence stored the files and then how you would go from file to file.
Well, important criminals would have their own file under their name. And you can look that file up, and every time that their name is brought up, it'll be in that file, but then someone else's name will be mentioned in their file. But it'll just be a short mention that they saw each other or they were seen talking together. Then you have to get that person, you don't know who he is. Then you got to find out if he has a file or if he shows up in someone else's file.
Wow.
And who is this guy and how are they associated? And after about 1,000 hours of research, you try to put their life back together. What were they doing in the 1960s when I didn't know them? And that was the effort to do that. And we did a pretty good job of it. We developed enough information out of those files that he was quite impressed about how much we knew about his life.
And then
As an example, we threw out, just by chance, I threw out, so you had your knuckles tattooed. You don't have that anymore.
Hold on one second,
Well-
Frank, before you get to talking to him. How is it decided, the game plan? Where's he at? And what do you guys do to go talk to him the first time? Where's he at and what's going on?
Someone else,
Well,
go ahead.
I did it before we got Steve involved. I had to go through Greg Lacombe, my partner, and we had him brought in from Kentucky to Arnold PD jail. And Greg Lacombe and I went down to talk to him. And I introduced myself as a special agent bomb technician to him, which got his interest immediately. So we had that first interview, and how that went was he was very suspicious. We're talking to him, and that is when I'm talking to him, he got very emotional and said, "You probably think I am this, cold-blooded killer. I'm not a cold-blooded killer." And he grabs a pen from the table, and he grabs me by the arm. I'm sitting
Stabbed
next
you
to
in the
him,
neck.
and he puts the pen to my jugular vein. And I'm not saying that I'm like a particularly brave guy or anything. I to this day, I don't know why. I wasn't intimidated by it. I mean, I was, concerned, but I kind of just looked at him and I didn't move. I didn't touch him. I didn't beat him up or anything like that. And Greg, on the other side, he kind of, he froze a little bit, and he puts it up to my neck, and then he throws it down and said, "If I was a cold-blooded killer, I would have jammed that in Frank's jugular vein, and Greg, you would have beat my ass, but Frank would have bled out and died." So I'm not he was trying to prove a point,
I was
right?
just kidding when I.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what happened.
It's still funny, huh?
So,
No, that's so funny now.
so after that, we went out to the local putt-putt, and we got those little short pencils to take our notes, and we had no pens in the room.
Right. I think he could have got you
but-
with one of those Tower T pencils, too.
Yeah, those are sharp, dude.
Those things are sharp
But I'll
as
tell you
hell.
what, again, that was just by chance. I can't explain to me why I didn't react to it. People would say, "What's wrong with you? Why didn't you break his arm or whatever and beat him?" But after that, he had so much respect for me that I didn't react like that. And that was part of, that and a lot of other things that Steve and I did built the respect. And after that, we were off and running.
So,
That's because he thought you were a cold-blooded killer too.
Yeah, right.
there you go. So when you go out there with Greg, have you and Steve already done your homework on Richard by the time you've done that, or do you?
Yeah, we were, because that took a while to get him back. It was like in 2000 to get him back after he settled down, and we got a little story about that. He wasn't ready to talk to us until his mother passed away. And that was the green light. When his mother passed away, that was the green light. And Steve can talk about that. Steve's got a mind like a bear trap. So we did that. And then once I started that relationship, then I introduced Steve. And it was Steve and I for the rest of the time.
Okay. And then do you guys go interview him again after the first interview, or do you guys then do homework from what you find out on the first interview if you find anything out?
I started corresponding with him, actually, from the federal prison, and he starts telling me some stuff. We need to talk about this bombing and that bombing, this person and that person. So
how's he communicating with you?
through writing,
Okay.
through writing. He was writing me letters. He was a writer. And he would write long letters.
We'll talk about that in a little bit, about the book he was going to write.
Yeah, the book. And then, years after I retired, just a quick story, years after I retired, I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I get a letter in the mail from federal prison. He goes, "Surprise, it's me, Richard Beck."
All right. All right.
So
Did you keep
That was a little
Did you keep
chilly.
all the letters?
I have every letter
Figured
he
you
ever
did.
wrote. Yep, copies anyway. So yeah.
So you said that, now what is your game plan? You're putting these cases together. You think he's good for him. When do you guys go out? Do you guys go out a second time, or you said there was something about his wife? Do you guys pull his wife over?
Oh, yeah.
What
so
happens
in between,
next?
Yeah. So after that, we're doing research. Steve is spending a ton of time in intel, and he's sharing stuff with me. And Steve's looking stuff up on microfiche and everything else. And so we decide we're going to go talk to his ex-wife. We're going to talk to his girlfriend. And we knew his girlfriend, which we're not going to mention here. She has family there. But she was very friendly with St. Louis Police Department, with the McDonough family. And we got an introduction to her. And we went looking for Connie Beck, his ex-wife, who's now passed away. And that was one of the first tactical things that Steve and I did. And all we had was a black and white photo of her, which I'm going to send you this photo. I think I put it, I'm going to send you the photo of Connie Beck when she got arrested for killing her husband, Paul Henningsen, in which Richard Beck was part of that murder. And they claimed that it was self-defense. So we want to find Connie Beck. So Steve and I go driving out. Where was that, Steve? What part of town was that in? Where we found her at her sister's event up north, North County.
It was North County. I don't recall the
Yeah.
neighborhood.
So we're driving, and we're driving along. I'm driving, and this car goes. We're in the neighborhood of a last known address, and this car goes whizzing by, and I go, "Steve, I think that's Connie Beck that just went by." He goes, "How the fuck do you know that? All we had was the picture when she was 16. What?" I go, "I don't know, man. She just had that look." And we wheeled around and followed her back to her sister, and sure enough, it was Connie Beck.
Holy shit.
And then we were off. That was a jackpot.
So tell us a little
Initially,
bit.
it was rough.
So-
So let Steve go. Yeah, that meeting, Connie Beck eventually was rolled over 100% and told us everything we need to know about Richard Beck.
What do you recall from her interview, Steve?
Well, Connie was lonely. She was easy to interview. She loved our company. She liked the fact that somebody thought she was important enough to talk to. I think she was pretty truthful. I'm not sure that the death of her husband is exactly true. Either she killed him or Richard Beck killed him. But she took the rap for it. But she enjoyed our meetings. If we had any questions, and she would answer a question and even go further. She would bring out information that was very interesting that we did not know about.
Well, like, give us some examples of what she was telling you guys.
Just her relationship with him, and what all that she had heard about, things that he had in his house, where they lived, and what it did is anything that he would tell us, she's telling us something that matches the same thing that he's telling us. And that's what we're trying to do, is he's telling us that he's doing these things, but he's the only one telling us that. We need someone else. And she's backing up the things that he's talking about.
Do you remember some of the particulars, Frank, that she was throwing out there?
The most important thing I think we got from that is the bombs. She saw the dynamite bombs. He had them in the apartment, and he instructed her, if he ever got arrested and went to jail, he told her how to remove the blasting cap from the dynamite and get rid of the dynamite so she wouldn't get caught with it.
Wow.
And she saw several of the dynamite bombs that he had put together in order to blow a car up with someone in it.
I want you,
That
Frank,
was
and real quick, I want you to go and tell us how Richard Beck learned how to make bombs. What did you find out through your investigation of how he learned how to make bombs?
Well, he went into the Army. And didn't do so well because he's a psychopath, right? And so, you're not going to break Richard Beck down like you go to boot camp, right? They break you down and then kind of build you up the way you want. I read the military file on him, and there was a captain who was in the psych unit who basically wrote a letter saying that Richard Beck was hopelessly incurable. Psychological.
Well, what did they teach him how to do before they determined that he was hopelessly incurable crazy?
Yeah, this is where he learned how to use dynamite and blasting caps and how to use time fuse, and that's what he did. He was doing the explosive stuff. I forgot what unit he's in. It's in our report, but and he was very interested in that. So he learned how to use the blasting caps, the time fuse, and how to, we don't want to give up our secrets. We know that Richard Beck was telling the truth because as bomb techs, he was taught the same rules that we were taught. And one of them, as an example that everybody knows, is the last thing you do is put the blasting cap, after you hook you don't put the blasting cap, get the bomb ready, and then hook it up in case you got power. You keep the blasting cap separate from the dynamite, and the last thing you do after you hook it up to power is you insert, if the blasting cap doesn't go off, you insert it in. That's what sold me on the fact that he knew darn well what he was talking about.
Steve, you've been in bomb and arson for 40 years. Was he one of the more sophisticated bombers about his knowledge of the making and blowing up of things?
I don't call it sophisticated. He was careful. He knew what he was doing, but it's simplicity breeds reliability, and he kept it simple. All you need is dynamite and an electric cap and a power source. And what he described about his automobile incidents is, how do you know which wires are hot and when? Now, you can study a car, but there could be a leak. If there's a leak, you could kill yourself. Okay? So what he does is opens a hood, drops a cap down inside the hood behind the front tire, and stands on the outside of the wheel. Hooks the cap up to a power source. If the cap doesn't explode, he's in good shape. And then he inserts the cap in the dynamite underneath the car. And it's already hooked up to the power source. So if there were a leak or he hooked it to a hot wire by accident that was hot without the ignition, the cap would just explode and he could beat feet and do it a different day. But his instructions, how he did that, how he handled the dynamite, how he prepared the dynamite to insert the cap, is the same way that we would do it. And he went a little further than that on, generally speaking, when is the best time to plant a bomb on a car?
4 a.m.
Between 4 and 5 a.m. Why?
People are sleeping.
People sleep.
Yeah.
The police are all asleep.
No? Okay.
end of their shift.
That's what he said, you know.
That's what he said.
It's getting close to the
That's what he said. That ain't like the truth or anything.
The police have been working all night.
Come on,
now
now.
they're all asleep
They
waiting for
all
relief.
Come on, I was
Actually,
on the night watch.
we're giving way too much information to people listening.
Exactly.
Hey, that came from a bomber.
So, Frank, the
That's
other
Steve's
thing
memory.
that
That's Steve's memory. Gosh, it's just,
so the other thing, and then I brought up the mob ties. The one thing that that you guys learn is that he has mob ties, but he's not in the mob. Tell us a little bit about his mob ties. We'll go with you, Frank. Go, and then we'll go to Steve.
So, yeah, here's the whole thing. Richard Beck was German. He wasn't Italian. And he was close to some of the made guys, like allegedly Nando Bartolotta is allegedly a made guy of the Italian mob, and they were very close. And all Richard wanted to do was be a part of the Italian mob in St. Louis, but he could never be a made guy because he's not Italian. And so one of his motivations was he was going to show them what he could do and take care of people by blowing them up. And, you know, hey, look what you're missing. I could be a good, member. He was a wannabe Italian mobster.
Right.
He was really an associate. We would call him associate, and did stuff for the mob, but they used him. But he wanted to make himself valuable, but they would never break that rule.
Steve, can you tell us about when him and his brother tried to be mobsters at a bar up by the water tower? What was the name of that bar?
Water Tower
It
Lounge.
was a tower lounge.
The Tower Lounge. So him and his brother go into this bar, and they're going to be some mobsters. Can you tell us about that?
That's their old neighborhood. And a guy by the name of Parnell owned the bar. Parnell was a real big guy, probably not easily intimidated. And if you see pictures of Richie Beck, especially when he was young, he's a very small person, His brother Jack was a little bigger, and from what I heard, a lot tougher as far as a tough guy is concerned. And they got into an argument in the bar and went home and got a gun and came back
They got an argument with the owner?
with the owner.
Okay.
And they were going to shoot the owner, and the owner, I believe, went into the bathroom, but he had picked up a pistol when he saw him come in and put the pistol in his jacket pocket. And he went into the bathroom, and while he was in the bathroom, they kicked the door open and they were going to shoot him. Well, the shootout starts, and the owner shot Richard and shot Jack and killed him. And that was a significant incident in the life of Richard Beck.
Yes.
I don't know if he felt responsible for his brother's death, but starting, that was in March of 1965. And starting in March of 1965, his record for the next couple of years is dramatic.
Pretty active?
Yes.
So you're thinking that might have been the turning point where he got a little evil?
I can't say that it wouldn't have happened anyway, but that was a significant event. And you can tell when you talk to him. And we also talked to Jack Beck's wife. And I had known her for quite some number of years. And she had told me that that had a big effect on Richard. It was the death of his brother.
Yeah, I think he felt responsible, and he felt bad for Jack Beck's wife. And the strange thing about it is Beck describes being at the urinal, and he's reaching in for a 45 when Mr. Parnell, Maurice Parnell, comes in. And he turns around, and Parnell knew what he was doing. Parnell purposely puts two into both thighs of Richard Beck and drops Richard Beck. But Jack's a little bit bigger guy. He shoots Jack right in the forehead and drops him.
Wow.
And Beck later, we'll get into this, when he tries to kill Parnell after this, he later appreciates the fact that Parnell purposely shot him in the legs and didn't shoot him in the head, which is kind of strange.
So
We'll get into
we're
that.
going to get into, let's go to now the interview where you guys get the most information. Which interview is this, and how long into the process of it when he starts admitting to actual bombings?
Steve, I think that would be Franklin County
Yes, Franklin
somewhere in
County.
2000.
It was one long day, and then the second day, we were with them for 2 days.
Okay.
Long days.
They were long days, locked in a room, and it really wasn't all that comfortable. The room wasn't comfortable. But
Now, would you guys buy him meals, or how did that work? Would you
Yeah,
guys
they let
leave
us
for
bring
lunch?
some. Well, I think.
they
Well, I
brought-
think
they
in
brought 'em
Arnold
some.
we did.
Okay.
Yeah, when we were there in Franklin County, they brought food in for him.
Okay.
But
So there's 2 days of confessions. And how many bombings, if you remember, how many bombings does he confess to?
well, he talked
It's
about
bombings and murders. It's bombings and murders both. But yeah, it's hard to.
5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8 bombings and 1 attempt bombing, and that's not all of them. There's a couple of more that weren't as significant. But as far as bombing incidents, in 1965 and 66, he's got five bombings in 8 months and 1 attempt bombing. And the attempt is an interesting story. And then there's a little bit of a dry period. In 1970, that was the year that Jesse Wilcox was killed in St. Louis. There's 3 bombings and a shooting murder.
Time for a quick word from our sponsors. Remember, listeners, you can go buy a Ford from many places, but when you buy it from Schicker Ford of St. Louis, you get a car and a family. The service after the sale is second to none. They've been huge supporters of law enforcement for over 60 years. You get the same treatment if you visit Schicker Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge in Washington, Missouri. So,
When you don't want to bicker about the price on the sticker, head on down to Schicker, where you get the best deal quicker.
Now, where the heck do you bring that car when you first get it?
What I would do is you got to unwind afterwards. And whenever you want to unwind after a shift, buying a car, or just a good night out, you head to Columbo's Cafe and Tavern in Dogtown, St. Louis, where craft brews are on tap. Solid pub grub, a vibe that says real people, real stories. Near the heart of St. Louis, bring your squad or just bring your appetite. Located on Manchester in historic Dogtown, Columbo's is where community roots meet good times. Visit columbosstl.com or drop in tonight. Tell them the brighter side of blue sent you. Columbo's, for people who work hard and play harder.
70 until from 70 to 73.
So let's go to the initial batch of bombings that he goes through. The initial, you said there was 5 and then 1 attempt, or 6 and 1 attempt?
5 and an attempt. After Jack was killed in March of 65, there was in June of 65, there was a bombing of an automobile, just the automobile. It belonged to Ernie Sarkis. Ernie Sarkis owned a tavern catty-cornered from Betty Cedar, California, a couple blocks south of Russell. And he put a bomb on Sarkis's car and blew his car up, Cadillac. And that was a personal bombing. Sarkis belittled him. He had a $1,000 bill, and he was showing it off. Well, back then, $1,000 bill was,
Shit.
that was a lot of money carrying in your pocket, And so
He got it from Las Vegas.
he was
Las
he was
Vegas.
showing that bill off, and somebody snatched it, and it disappeared. Like we don't know who's got this. And they started playing games with him, and Sarkis was behind that, and so he paid Sarkis a visit and put a bomb in his car to let him know.
That I can bomb you?
Yeah,
Okay.
don't mess with me.
And then what else did he go to?
But
So we'll just
that was in
briefly go
65.
through 'em.
Then in July of 65, he puts a bomb on Parnell's car.
Oh, the guy that
Over
shot
in
him.
Illinois. Parnell is the guy that shot him and killed his brother. Well, he puts a bomb on his car over in Illinois, and the guy comes out, tries to move his car, something is wrong, he looks underneath, he spots something, he calls the bomb squad from the military over in Illinois, and they come and they pull a bomb off from underneath us.
So Parnell found the bomb?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Steve, you remember how that happened, though? This is very interesting. He had you have a detonator. He had a scissor switch under the tire. So kind of looks like this. And when it backs up, you roll over, the scissor switch makes a connection, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's the thing that you tell your wives and your girlfriend not to do? When you start the car, you don't sit there and turn the wheel. You got to, because you're going to put a bald spot on your tire, right? Well, Parnell, thank God he did that. He turned the wheel, and when he did that, the scissor switch bent like this, and it didn't touch. So
Holy
he ran over the initiator, but he had his wife and kids in the car. And Richard Beck started crying, telling us that story. Thank God he did that, because I would have killed his wife and his kids too.
So he had some heart.
Yeah, a little bit, but
What do we got next, Steve?
Okay, so that was in July of 65. In September of 65, the victim was Fred Bierman. It wasn't him. It was that was a real estate office, but it was over a bond. His dad had Bierman had made a bond for his dad, and then he should have got money back, and the guy didn't give him the money back, and so that was a personal revenge against Bierman. That was the 3000 block of Minnesota.
Now, did Bierman die?
No,
Okay.
no, it blew the front out of the building.
We lost Frank. Oh, he's back now.
I did that on purpose.
It blew the front off of the building, and catty-cornered was one of Herman Isley's
The Black Forest?
and it blew the awning off the Black Forest.
Come on.
And,
I'll be
and
messing with Herman and German.
broke some windows in the neighborhood.
Herman the German was a victim?
Yeah.
Damn.
Then that was another property bond, and it was over money, but it was over. You can call that personal, more personal than money. Okay, and then you've got Michael Buckley in November of 65. Now I got a note here that says this is personal, but it's personal to him, and it's personal to Walsh. Okay. And he kind of let that slip when he was talking. But to give you an idea who Buckley is, Buckley's wife is Richard's wife's sister. So he was,
Brother-in-law?
Right.
yeah.
Kinda?
Yeah. And so Buckley supposedly was getting a little bit too close to Connie, Richard's wife, and he had stole some property. He had disposed of some stolen property that Richard Beck had an interest in without cutting him in on it. So that is a personal issue, and it shows disrespect. But also, there was property stolen out of a warehouse that Walsh had given somebody permission to store there. So it made Walsh look bad. And Richard worked for Walsh.
Hey, talk about who Buddy Walsh is, Steve, a little bit. We didn't introduce Buddy Walsh.
Buddy Walsh was a bondsman. It wasn't in his name. It was Virginia Walsh Bonding in St. Louis County. And Buddy Walsh was her husband. And Buddy Walsh, the bonding company wasn't in his name, but it was in hers. Buddy did all of the bonding. If you went to the third district, you could see Buddy down there. If you went to headquarters, you'd see him standing in the lobby of headquarters. He was well known in St. Louis County, St. Louis City, and he lived in the Clayton area. And Richard was good friends with him.
Because he used them a lot?
100%.
They were personal friends, and Rich was personal friends with his Buddy Walsh's youngest son, and I think very attached to Walsh's wife.
Uh-oh.
That's not good.
Yes.
Somebody's
He was
gonna-
in love with her.
Somebody's
He
catching
was
a
in love
bomb.
with
Walsh's
Somebody's about to big a bomb.
I'm going to send you a
Walsh's
photograph of
wife
them.
was showgirl quality.
Okay.
She was older than him, but she was showgirl.
So you're saying he had a reason to be
Yes,
attracted
yes.
to her? Okay.
I think Frank liked her too.
Right.
No, she's very attractive.
So
Here we go.
and Michael Buckley was an issue where he tested the blasting cap the same way. put the dynamite underneath, left, went out to the alley, down the alley to the major street, and was picked up by somebody and drove away. His friend, Michael Buckley, came out and started this car that morning, and it blew up and killed him.
So you think that was done on behalf, he did that on behalf of Walsh, though?
At least partially. He says that it was out of disrespect that the guy had kind of cheated him out of some stuff, and it
Okay.
wasn't the money, it was the disrespect. He blames a lot of stuff on respect. However, Walsh had something to do with that.
Okay.
And so that was November of '65. And then this one, I have to have Frank's help on this. This one was so small, I don't remember the exact motive. This guy's name was Hoffman. This was January '66, and this is at number 22 Fox Meadows. That's right off of South Limburg. And
Frank, do you remember that one?
he
I think
put
I got that one.
he put the bomb on the outside of the house.
Frank was in kindergarten at this time.
He put the bomb on the outside of the house and kind of cracked the foundation, and it was a warning. And do you
It was
remember?
over stolen property. I don't remember. It wasn't the Jade Elephant, but it was over stolen property, and he somehow, disrespected him. It wasn't a major thing. I
So
just
does
don't
anybody
remember.
get killed in any of these bombings? Yeah.
Buckley.
Buckley's dead.
Michael
Okay,
Buckley.
so Buckley's dead.
Yes.
And then does he? And then you said he takes a hiatus. Does he go to jail or something?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. He's not in jail yet. We'll know when he goes to jail, huh? Yeah.
Now, the next one
Things will
is
stop blowing up.
the next one is real important. This is the second attempt, the second bombing attempt
On Parnell?
On Parnell.
Uh-oh. He's out for Parnell now.
Parnell now lives in Missouri.
Okay, so he's moved closer.
Yeah. So Richard is going to the penitentiary.
So time's running out.
And so he figures, well, what better time, Put a bomb on Parnell's car, do Parnell. Tomorrow morning, I'm on the bus headed to the pen. And I'll be out of pocket.
I got to hand it to him. That's a pretty good plan, though.
That's a good
I mean, if you're going to have a plan, that's a good one.
So he goes to Parnell's house. Parnell drives a Olds 98s for fancy cars, I think it's an old 98 that Parnell owns, and
Was he a pimp? Parnell wasn't no pimp?
he just liked good cars.
All right.
Holiday 98, didn't you own one?
I was a pimp, though.
Anyway, he goes to the house. He chimneys the garage, breaks in, puts a bomb on the car, hooked up, gets in his car, and he leaves. Starts thinking, oh, something's wrong. He just put the bomb on an Oldsmobile with 4 doors.
Wasn't the right car.
Parnell's car is a 2-door.
Oh,
It's got to be his wife's car. So he went back to the house, broke back in, took the bomb off the car.
so this guy does have. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
he's got some standards.
he's got some. He's got some bombing standards at least.
So about then, he goes to the penitentiary for a while.
So, let me guess. The bombing stop. That's a pretty active. 4 bombings in '65. He was an active dude in '65. Now
Yeah,
that's a
well,
lot of bombings.
yeah. So then it looks like
People don't even shoot people 4 times in a year. The active shooters
Some
in the
do.
ghetto here don't even shoot people that many times in a year. He bombed 4 people in 1 year.
He's a
That's a
white,
dynamite using.
he's a white Raphael Jackson.
Yeah, he is.
yeah, this guy apparently he's out on the loose by 1970.
It's not
And
back.
He's back, and here's what happens. Another nice-looking girl. I don't remember her name. It took me forever to find this woman. 50 years after this happened, but another very nice-looking woman. She was out on bond for something, checks or something. And she was a bond jumper. And so she got arrested and nobody would make her bond. And her boyfriend was Jesse Wilcox. And so her boyfriend can't go to anybody that's local there around Bondsman in the 3rd District. Nobody wants to touch this girl, you know. But
She's got bad credit. She's got bad bond credit.
well, she needs to be bonded out on a bond forfeiture,
Right.
you know, and it's going to be quite a bit of money. And so he gets a hold of a Walsh and Richard Beck, and Richard Beck vouches for Wilcox because Wilcox is a stand-up guy. He had just got out of the penitentiary himself, not too long before that. And they bond her out. And I don't remember the cash amount now, but I think it might have been $10,000. That's a lot of money. 1970, 10,000 cash, you know. The bond date comes up. She don't show. Jesse Wilcox, I don't know if he was a laborer, but he was working at the time. He was working on a construction job. It was a Leclerc gas building downtown. And they were on one of the upper floors. It was under construction. And Richie goes down to talk to him. You know, this girl's got to come in. You know, we're hanging out on all this money. And he kind of gets pushy with Wilcox. That's a mistake. You know, Wilcox is big and he's tough. I just generally, but I had met Jesse Wilcox. I knew him, and he's not the kind of guy you'd want to push around. And so he told Richard Beck, "You get off my job site, or I'll throw you off this building." So Beck leaves, and he starts setting him up.
Went to the dynamite store.
Well, first thing you got to do is get a car that's just like his. And somebody in the Walsh family had one. He had a Pontiac Bonneville. His was a convertible. Jesse's was a convertible. And somebody in the Walsh family, one of the boys, had a Pontiac Bonneville. And so did a little practice run on the Bonneville to make sure he knew where everything was. And went over to Jesse's house, same thing. Popped the hood, 4:30 in the morning. Dropped the blasting cap down in a protected area, hooked it up when it didn't go off, hooked up the dynamite, put it underneath the car. Jesse came out to go to work that morning, and that was the first St. Louis bomb scene that I was on.
Oh, really?
I was about blocks away, having coffee early in the morning with another policeman, sitting in the street, you know, parked facing each other, drinking a cup of coffee and talking. And somebody got a call for an illegally parked car, for a damaged car, a loud noise, everything but a bombing. And when we got over there,
no longer parked.
the body of the car was upside down behind the frame and the engine. The trunk lid and the license plate was at the end of the block against a house. And windows all up and down the block were blown out. One guy was in his kitchen in the back of his house, and he had those old, heavy, real good quality bevel glass front doors. And it blew that bevel glass all the way through his house onto his kitchen table. He was having coffee, and then pieces of glass were all over his table. Three rooms down the hall.
I'm just going to take a guess that said Mr. Wilcox did not survive.
No, he did not. No.
So that was in '69. Now how fast is this? I'm going to go back here. You said that was your first bomb scene.
That was the first one I was on.
Did you kind of say to yourself, I mean, I wouldn't mind working, investigating this kind of stuff? I mean, did it cross your mind at the time, or was it more like, God damn, that was a powerful bomb that just blew out the whole neighborhood?
Well, I was interested. not only in the bombing and the mechanics of the bombing, but also victimology and suspects. Who would do something like this, and why, and what kind of victim do we have here? You know.
Did you get to investigate that, or would you just
No.
no?
I was there, and after about 10 or 15 minutes, it was typical. There must have been 50 policemen around there, and I finally left.
But then your full circle moment is when this came up again when you're interviewing him, huh?
Yeah.
I remember that day.
Well, I studied this bombing as soon as I went to bombing and arson because I remembered it from when I was young and working on the street, and it got the report, and it just they didn't have it. Nobody knew who did it. But,
Who's Richard go to next? He's done with Wilcox. He's got him out of the picture.
Well,
Richard's still mad. Who's he mad at now?
Tommy,
What's that?
there's something important about that I think needs to be mentioned. That was St. Patty's Day of March 16th, 1970. Here's why, Beck we're not just believing what Beck's telling us, right? Steve's got the actual scene report. He's got the photographs, and Beck describes how he uses the blasting caps and how the wires. Those photographs, whoever did that crime scene did an awesome job. The report and the photographs match exactly what Beck is telling us.
Wow.
You
And
can
that's
see
why we didn't just willy-nilly.
alligator
believe it.
clips on the wires.
Yeah.
The alligator clips are still there in the photograph. But also, Patty Walsh, one of the Walsh kids,
Buddy's kids?
when they did a dry run at the car, he was with them. He was with Richard when they did a dry run on the car and knew that the bombing was going to occur that morning. And in fact, he wanted to stay home from school that day. Because he knew that it would be on the news, and his dad made him go to school.
Okay. So it's kind of running in the family now.
It's great a cycle.
Well, it's an event
So
for the
that
family.
remains unsolved from March 16th, 1970 until 2000 when Steve and I entered. It was unsolved for that long, 30
But I
years.
just want to, since we're naming this the Mad Bomber of St. Louis, let's get through all his bombings first, and then we'll get to his mob affiliates.
Okay. The next one, guy by the name of Jeff Hanger. Jeff's a small-time criminal, associate of Beck's, and there's different thoughts on what saved his life, but I think it's the fact that he was driving a Corvair.
Corvair?
Yeah.
Back in the. All right.
Jeff Hanger and Frank knows more about this than I do because it involved a burglary where a woman died, and Richard Beck testified at a coroner's inquest, and so Jeff Hanger supposedly was putting the word out that Richard Beck was a snitch.
Oh.
And
That's a bad idea.
So-
There's some dynamite.
that's
gonna get some dynamite bought.
He's disrespecting Richard Beck. Okay.
Put him on the list.
So Jeff Hanger, he lives up in, I think it was the 7th District at the time, Washington Avenue. He lives in an apartment up there. And he leaves his apartment, goes out, gets in his car, turns the key, and boom. It's a Corvair convertible. And it blows him out of the car.
Through the roof?
Well, the roof and the door, you can't tell. It blows, the roof's gone, the door's open. And when the police get there, they got to talk to his girlfriend because he ain't there. What happened? She goes, well, he was cut on his chin, and he come in and he cleaned his chin up, and he said he was getting out of here before the police show up.
Are you kidding me? This guy got blown out of the car?
He's one tough son of a bitch.
They came in and brushed it off?
Well, he wasn't afraid of the police. He was afraid if this didn't get him, was Richard going to get him some other way, because.
All right. He got blown out. I mean, knowing what you know, how far is he getting blown out of that car?
Don't know. He didn't
Well,
say.
we don't know. It probably wasn't very far, but he got blown out of the car. But the real issue is Richard stuck with his guns, mostly.
That's a bad one, Steve. He didn't stick with his guns. He stuck with his dynamite.
He hooked the bomb up the same way. Where's the engine in a Corvair?
Back.
It's in the rear. So it did more damage to the rear, and it kind of helped protect him a little bit. But some of the overpressure went inside the car and blew him out of the car and blew the roof off.
Does he report it? I mean, he doesn't report the crime? He's not even around when the police come?
No, they
Okay.
I don't know. They may have talked to him later, but they got the statement from his girlfriend.
All right. Now he's the hanger survives. Then what's he go? Now what he's on to?
Well, there's a little bit of a gap. There's the Sherman Brothers deli.
Creve Coeur.
It's in Creve Coeur, delicatessen. Okay. Now, like I said before, Richard is real close to Buddy Walsh. Sherman owns a delicatessen, but he's thinking about going into the bonding business.
Uh-oh. Competition for his buddy?
And a bomb goes off in front of his store.
He's not getting in there anymore. Now, does he survive that one or no?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So he survives the deli one? Okay.
And so that was a warning,
Warning, right?
and it worked.
A couple sticks of dynamite can do that.
Okay, the next major incident that I have, okay? Now, there's some other incidents that involve explosives, and maybe Frank knows more about them than I do. One in Chicago, and then there's a couple. But the next major incident in St. Louis started as a bank robbery, or not a bank robbery, but a bank extortion. And one of his best friends, Lester Mueller, was with him. And in the process of this extortion and getting away, Lester Mueller had made a serious mistake that got their license plate ID'd. They had a stolen plate to put on their car, and it was his job to take the good plate off, put the stolen plate on. He didn't do it.
Uh-oh.
And when they were getting away, some gentleman and his teenage daughter pulled up behind him and parked. And I guess good police work located these people, and they came up with a license number, and they knew who they were before they ever got back to St. Louis. Well, they hid the money on the way back into St. Louis, and they knew that they were going to get caught. And Lester Mueller, I think if I remember right, Richard said that Lester Mueller was claustrophobic. I can't go to jail. I won't last in jail. I'm not going to jail. And there was only one person. He went back down there. They went down, and there was a lineup, and I think Lester was picked out. Richard wasn't, but Lester was picked out. And it was the girl. And Lester wanted to go back and kill the girl. And Richard said, no, we can do our time, no big deal for a bank extortion, but not for murder. And that was Richard's story. And because of that, he had to kill Lester. And he took him to a garage on the pretext of using an air hammer and practice with it to peel a safe, to do a safe job. And while Lester was bent over operating the air hammer, Richard shot him in the back of the head, put him in his car, and parked him at the airport.
Jeez.
Wow.
When's the movie come out?
No, I'm telling you, somebody should do a movie. This is the way do you hear this? I'm going to bring this one up now. We'll let Frank do this. We'll give Steve a break. And Frank, what I want you to talk about is the Martin. How does Richard Beck somehow along the way on all this stuff, he gets involved in the Martin Luther King assassination. When they're looking for somebody to kill Martin Luther King, he tells you guys a story that he gets approached. And tell us that story.
Yeah, this is when Greg Lacombe and I first interviewed him in 2000, April of 2000. And he's trying to think of the bomb. He's trying to think of everything he's done. And he brings that up. If you Google the name Russell Byers, you'll learn that, and there's been a lot of talk recently about this in St. Louis. I don't know why.
I believe
Russell
it's called the
Byers-
Buyer's Bounty, Frank. The Buyer's
yes.
Bounty is what they're calling it.
And Russell Byers is, a longtime criminal guy that, involved in stolen goods and robberies and things like that. And he knew Richard Beck. And Russell Byers would testify in front of Congress that he was approached to do the contract for Martin Luther King. But he doesn't tell the truth. He says it was only after, that he only talked about it after it happened or notified people who it was after. Russell Byers apparently was looking for the person to do the assassination. And Richard Beck claims, and they don't like each other. And there's a reason why we believed Richard Beck on this. He approaches, Russell Byers approaches Richard Beck and say, hey, we need to kill a black guy down in Memphis. He doesn't tell him who it is. There's a black guy, and he's causing a problem for business down in Memphis. And, they'll pay $10,000. And Richard goes, well, I'm not really, they want to shoot him. And Richard says, I don't, I'm a bomber. If you want to blow him up, I'll blow him up. I'm not a shooter. And Richard Beck was bad. He wasn't a good shot, right? And so he gets introduced to the colonel, which is Kaufman. And you'll read about Kaufman, and he was this John Sutherland and John Kaufman. And Kaufman had this, he had the, dressed like a colonel, from the South, and had the carpeting with, the Confederate flag and all this. And they were part of some Confederate mafia, and they wanted to kill Martin Luther King. So Beck gets introduced to John Kaufman, who was looking to contract the murder of Martin Luther King. And Kaufman, here's why, one of the reasons why we believe Richard Beck talked to him. He says, hey, look, we're offering $25,000 to go kill this guy. He goes, Russell Byers, that son of a bitch, was going to pay me 10, and he was going to keep 15 and pay me 10 of the 25. So now Beck wants to kill Byers.
So now Byers just made the list.
Yeah. And so, and then Beck says, you know what? I was getting ready to go to prison, which would have been good, but I'm not going to go to Memphis and try to shoot somebody with a 308 from a distance on, and he decides not to do it, and he goes off to prison. While he's in prison, he hears that Martin Luther King was killed, and it ends up being by a relative of Russell Byers, right, Steve? You know that connection between Russell Byers and James Earl Ray, who broke out of Jefferson City jail.
Yeah. I don't know their exact relationship. I know that they had a relationship, and I'm not surprised that Byers would go to him. But that's all I know about it.
On a side note,
Yeah.
James Earl Ray, when he escaped, I was in school with his nephew. So James Earl,
Really?
Yeah, James Earl Ray's sister lived near us in the FBI. Was in the FBI staked out the house thinking that James Earl Ray was going to come back there. So Jim Peppers is a guy I went to high school with.
Well, and so here's the weird thing. And so I think Steve and I talked about it a little bit, and I was sort of, I don't want to make a conspiracy theory about this. We were kind of shut down on that by the FBI executive management. And I'm not criticizing them for that. And the person who shut us down happened to be African American, so I was puzzled by that. And I think we weren't given a reason. We were just so, hey, knock this off. It's been solved. There's nothing you're going to do but create, headquarters are going to come down. But we wanted to know the whole story. We were doing it we knew James Earl Ray did it, but we wanted to know the whole story with Russell Byers and all the backstory that nobody ever knew, right? But I think we were kind of told, hey, leave that alone. You're just going to stir up. I get it. You're going to just get everybody all riled up for nothing. And Beck really didn't have much more to say other than he was one of the guys they approached and how much it was. So
So, Frank, on a previous show, we had Ron Tunkel on here, and Ron Tunkel is an ATF profiler. He's profiled some of the most dangerous bombers all over the place because he was an ATF profiler, and he got in there to profile bombers. And you get him involved. Talk about getting him involved and what happens, and then how Ron classifies Richard Beck after interviewing him.
Well, I got in a little trouble with behavioral, it used to be, with the profiles, the behavioral analyst unit, because we got them involved after the first interview, and they read my report on how Beck put the pen to my neck. So they get us on a conference call. I don't remember if Steve was there or not, and they listen to everything. They say, Frank, listen to us very carefully. Don't ever fucking do that again. So, and I think Tunkel was part of that group that said, what is wrong with, and again, we try to explain we weren't expecting it, but yeah, so I get a hold of Ron, and great guy, Ron's just a great guy, a great profiler, and Ron just latches onto it, and Ron ends up, I do the introduction, we go out to Beckley, West Virginia, and Ron Tunkel does a video recorded interview with Richard Beck. He ends up putting that study, and he did a study on arsonists and bombers and included that in that study. And I'll tell you that on our second trip out there, we were out at Beckley, West Virginia when 9/11 happened. And I was trapped at the FCI in Beckley, West Virginia on 9/11, the morning of 9/11. And I had to find my way back home. But kind of an interesting spin on that. But yeah, so Ron Tunkel did a great job, did a lengthy interview. He doesn't really confess to everything. He was a little worried about putting that on record, but he does talk about his psyche in it and, his criminal activity. Richard Beck was first, there are numerous, we have numerous articles of Richard Beck's crimes throughout the years, but he was first mentioned in the Post-Dispatch, or what was it, the Democrat back
Globe
then?
Democrat.
Yeah, when he was 16 years old in 1958, he did a robbery, a $2,750 robbery, and got caught, and he was mentioned there. So he just had a lifetime of criminal activity, and at one point he wanted to write a book, and he had somebody that was going to help him write a book about his life of crime and about his bombings. And he outlines everything. I have a copy of his rough draft.
Yeah, we're going to get. Well,
outlines-
I'm going to get to that in a second. But didn't Ron Tunkel
Okay, sure.
classify him as like the most prolific bomber in U.S. history?
His exact words is Richard Beck may be the most prolific bomber in the history of the United States because of the number and all the number and the details behind it.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And then you were going to talk about his book. So when Richard's in jail, and we're wrapping up here, and we're going to have these guys. Yeah. We're going to have these guys back because there's way more crime with the mob and everything else that we can talk about. But we're going to try to wrap this up as a Richard Beck one. But Richard, and I'll put this on our website too, if you don't mind, or on our thing.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Richard writes a book, or writes the outline of a book, Confessions of a Career Criminal by Richard Beck, as told. And then on the side of it, he's got it. Frank got this, and he's got it all drawn out while he was in prison, and on the side of it says the same thing, Confessions of a. But then he goes into what he wants to talk about. And when you look at this, Steve, when you looked at these chapters, what was coming to your mind? Because he was naming the who's who of the St. Louis mafia scene in these chapters, correct?
Yeah. I like to stick with what I have. That I didn't talk to him personally about.
He doesn't admit
and his connection with organized crime. There's no doubt that he is a close personal friend of Nando Bartoletto's.
Right.
And Nando is reportedly a made member of organized crime, of the mafia. But all of his other connections, I know for a while, the best comment was, he's a wannabe. He used to hang out at the bar up at the Fitters complex. Just hang around where union people and union bosses hang out.
That's
He's just
chapter
looking for
46.
He's just
Steve,
looking for work.
So chapter 46 is the pipe fitters union murders, and he says Louis and Bosco. Who are Louis and Bosco, Steve, if you know?
Norman Bosco Owens and Lou Shoulders.
And who are they?
Norman Bosco Owens, I believe, is probably a definite connection to organized crime bombings. Lou Shoulders is the son of Lieutenant Shoulders from the St. Louis Police Department. He was convicted in the disappearance of money from the Greenlee kidnapping.
To say, great for Bobby.
He was released, I think, on a appeal bond and died of a heart attack as a civilian out on an appeal bond. And his son is Lou Shoulders Jr. Lou Shoulders Jr. is a tough guy, muscle man. Worked for Muscle on the east side. He also was, they worked in as muscle men during a taxi cab strike, and they were trying to muscle in on the not only the fitters union, but the laborers union, Local 110.
Okay. So that's and then but are those the two? Now there was a mob, or there was a pipe fitters boss, Tommy Callanan, and there's a couple bombings here that are mentioned, and I believe it's his wife Harriet. Now is it Louis and Bosco that did those bombings? Because he says pipe fitters murders union, or pipe fitter union murders. Are they? Is that who you're thinking did it, or give us your opinion on that?
Well, it's very possible that Bosco was bombing.
Okay.
Bosco is a bomber. He had the contacts. He had a direct contact with Art Burney, who worked for the Pipe Fitters Union. Art Burney was an old friend and a confidant of Frank Buster Workman in Illinois.
East Side.
And if the fitters wanted something done, they've got Art Burney sitting right next to him. And if he was going to call somebody, it would be Bosco Owens.
And then, and like I said, I'm going to put as much of these chapters on here, but I'm telling you, I'd read the book, Frank. I'm telling you right now, I'm getting this book. And I don't read
Now
books,
listen,
dude.
I want to make this very clear. I obtained that information many years after I retired. I have stayed in touch with both Richard Beck and some associates, and I obtained the rough draft of his book, The Mad Bomber of St. Louis, when I was not an FBI agent, many years after I retired.
We got the Sonny Spica bombing, burning buildings for the outfit. I guess the outfit was in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we
Insurance
got
jobs.
Richie Hammond and the Colombians. What else we got? We got career burglars. Nobody gets hurt, so he wanted to be a burglar, so he didn't have to hurt nobody. So he was getting away from that dude doesn't have a heart, man.
The only thing that Richard ever said that he was ashamed of was some of his early burglaries. They would go over obituaries.
Uh-oh.
And they would burglarize the home of the deceased. That was back when they put all of the information in the obituary of where the people lived and while they were gone. And he says, can you imagine these people coming home? They just buried their mother or father and they come home and all of their stuff is gone out of their house.
I don't know what.
But hang on.
I'm going back to when I was a kid. I remember I went to a funeral, and then whoever's house or they were talking about, they had some kind of sitter come over to their house and watch their house while they were at the funeral.
Yeah, well, that was one of
That must have been back in the day.
That was one of his methods of operation.
What were you about to?
And you know how?
say,
And
Frank?
here's you know how he justified it. Well, look, they're going to mourn over the loss of a loved one and mourn over the loss of their goods. They might as well do it all at the same time.
No, well, shit's going bad. Might as well. Shit's going bad. Shit's going bad. And then you got another one. We got the Jerry Box murder. Then he talks about all his. I'm telling you, I'm buying this book. If he comes out with it, somebody needs to do a movie on this dude. You got the when back in the day when we had Captain Speece on, Joe Speece's dad.
Yeah.
He was talking about Richard Lee Bodeker and him because he was in the hoodlum squad. Captain Speece was, and they were chasing him around. And I can remember I asked Captain Speece. I said, "Whatever happened to Richard Lee?" He got bombed. So
Yeah, he did.
he ended up dead. But and Richard knows about it because that's going to be one of his chapters in his book is about that bombing. But it seems to me that
His information is a little off.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
All right, we'll talk about that on another episode, though. Did you want to ask him about one gangster?
Nah, we can wait for the next time.
Yeah, we want to wrap this up. And Steve, will you come back, please?
Sure.
Frank, you're done. You're out. You're fired.
I've been on too much.
You're fired. We're going with Steve now. He is our new bomb guy, and you are replaced. And we're going to put you on paintings.
Peace out.
You had that art painting thing that you were going to tell us about. You had another one. What was the other one you were going to come on here?
Well, Byers, right?
Byers was the art thief.
He was the guy who, now that he's dead, I can tell you, he called and said, "Hey, what's wrong with the FBI and the art crimes act?" What do you mean? He said, because the Russian classroom painting is in New York, and I was the one that contracted it to be stolen from the Clayton Museum. And so that was the cold case.
That we talked about earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
We already
and
talked
that
about
was
it.
Russell Byers.
Right.
Yeah.
If
He's
you would have
dead now,
known
so
that.
I can say that.
And then he went on from that to orchestrate the possibly have a finger in the orchestration of the assassination of MLK.
So, where is Richard Beck today?
Oh,
Frank and Steve?
He's still alive.
Would you like to answer
That's
that?
right, Steve. What do we got? Where's he at? Where are we going?
Answer that.
He's
Did
coming
he
down
die?
tomorrow. He's coming down next week.
He recently moved, so I don't have the exact address, but he called me a couple of months ago. He's living in South County.
Oh, great.
Okay. Would he come on? Nah, he can't come on because he never got convicted for those murders. If I'm him, I'm not coming. Yeah, I'm not talking
In all
about that
fairness,
shit.
yeah.
Now, I'm going to
He's
read his
found
book
God.
Oh,
That's
jeez.
found God.
That's
Everybody does,
convenient.
you know.
That's convenient.
now. I never knew
How
that he
old
was
is he?
lost, but
How old is he now? And he's
83, maybe.
Okay.
83.
Yeah.
do you think he can still make a bomb?
I'm sure he can make a bomb. He has trouble walking.
Oh, that's
it's probably a good thing for everybody.
Yeah, moving
yeah,
the bomb
the
from
profile-
point A to point B is very important.
The profilers will tell you this, much like child molesters, they will be that way until they die. 100 years old, you're still going to be a child molester, and the serial bomber and arsonist that he is, he will never change. And
You are fired, and Steve is in. So we will see you next time, Frank. Thanks for coming by.
Cut.
All right,
good.
peace.
All right, guys.
Hey,
All right, we ended that show. When we ended that show, it was like, where's Richard Beck now, or what's he doing now? And we kind of, just, he's in South County. Well, I think what we didn't clarify was the fact that as you guys know, or as you heard, is he was already locked up on a dope case, and he got like 28 years, and he was 50-something years old, and he was in bad health. So the consensus was that he was most likely going to die in prison. And when you go back to prosecute this case, because many of those bombings happened in 1970 and 60, and people are gone, the evidence is it's hard to do, and yeah, they did get a confession from him. They did this, but a confession of somebody that's been deemed a nutball, it's a tough case to just say, oh, he confessed to it.
Right.
Well, when it goes to, he'd probably been looking at death or similar.
right.
You just don't. That's not something that you can just.
It's not a layup.
Well, right. It's not a layup trial, and there's a lot of. Then if you get it, and if you do it, let's just say you do it. You're talking, hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it done for somebody that's most likely going to die in prison. Now he didn't die in prison, but apparently he's not in all that great of health, and he's 83, 84, whatever he is. So
And
Well, he's out
dead.
in the streets and he's living.
But he
in
can't
St.
hear
Louis.
from all the bombs he blew up.
right, I did hear he has a tough time hearing, and
He's an ASL guy.
Hey, Richard, if you're listening, I don't think you're a nutball.
But he's not listening because he can't hear.
If somebody's interpreting for you, I don't think you're a nutball.
Goodbye.
all right,
Peace.
Communities that support law enforcement are safer places to live. We're out. Peace.